we have white labeled an entire lead gen system. So we can help set up your business, set up the recurring revenue. And as you see, it's not difficult per se, but it is hard to set up these businesses. So with mine, his experience, we set up the website and the funnels and the automated texting follow-up, the automated email follow-up, all of that. The real thing I focus on is helping as many people as possible cut their work in half and make more money.
Welcome to the Dynamis Podcast this week, guys. We are in a makeshift studio across the country. I had to go out of town unexpectedly, and so we are using some travel equipment, so the setup's a little bit different. And if there's any techie issues out there, I apologize in advance. We're a learn as we go outfit here, so if you're hearing something that sounds different, that's the reason why. But this week, I'm really, really excited to bring a new friend of mine, somebody that I met from GoBundance. It's a group I talk about all the time. The gentleman I'm bringing to the show today, his name is Andrew Funderburg, and he just has so much valuable information and insight. He always has something of value to share. I can't wait to bring him into the studio and introduce him. This podcast is going to be exceptionally entrepreneurial focused for the business owner, which is the audience that we are targeting. Andrew has a wide variety and range of experience in entrepreneurship and optimizing businesses. And so this is going to be a really, really cool episode. So today in the Dynamis Podcast, we're going to talk about the number one rule that experts need to keep a business from owning their lives. And with that, I'd like to welcome my friend Andrew into the studio. Andrew, welcome.
Thanks, Tim. Great intro. Hopefully I have brought the game having a full mic setup as a guest.
You have. When I saw you had a Rodecaster, I was like, yes. Andrew, would you mind just introducing yourself and giving some background to the audience before we jump into the meat and potatoes of today's episode?
Sure. One of my favorite jokes is that entrepreneur is French for unemployable. So I came into entrepreneurship because I literally could not get a job anywhere. I followed my heart instead of my brain and studied literature in college. And then after college, went into the Peace Corps and then ended up in Japan teaching English and lived in Japan for 13 years. And, we were out in the boonies in Japan. So I was like, it's either, make no money or start a business. So I started teaching English and hired a teacher. And then I figured out, you can make money when someone else is working, which obviously everybody should know that. But I come from, as I like to say, a very, very long line of poor people. So I am literally the first person in either of my family tree to actually own a business.
So your entrepreneurial journey kind of started by accident because you were off in the Peace Corps and it just was an opportunity to make some money in Japan.
Yeah. So I got back from the Peace Corps, could not find a job other than like waiting tables, which was my college job. And then I had a friend from college that was like, dude, you should come teach English in Japan. So I was like, okay, that sounds cool. Didn't even really have any interest in Japan. So I went there, taught for a company for a while, and then noticed all of these guys were like quitting their jobs and just teaching from home or, a third room in their house or something and making 3 times as much money. So I was like, that seems like a good idea. That was my start.
So let's talk about that really quickly because this is something that you're hitting on as the theme of today's episode. You mentioned that you hire somebody else to do the work and start making more money. Talk about that. The first journey that most people have into entrepreneurship is just being really good at a thing and selling that service. And you could see there's like this pattern of quickly getting shuffled into the weeds of your business and getting stuck. I'm the person that has to do this thing. I'm the best person to do this thing. That is really unique that you immediately hired somebody to do this. So can you talk about that transition and what that was like?
Well, so at the English school, it's pretty straightforward, right? You basically, which most services are, basically you just get yourself to the point where you're too busy and then you hire someone part-time to do what you're doing to fill in the gaps and then repeat, right? I didn't do a great job. I did a good enough job that, I was still working the same amount of money, but I was just making more, right? Because I was able to bring on more customers.
I see. So it was kind of like this natural, there's a need here. There's not enough of me. The only solution I can think of is to bring on this other person to supplement and fill in some holes. So how long did you do that? This is your first business venture. So how did it go? How long did you do it? Were you making good money?
Did that for probably 7 years. And then we taught out of our house. So we sold the house and the school together before we moved back.
Wait a minute. You owned the school? You owned the school as well?
Basically, we had like a big house and we had 2 classrooms. And so when we got ready to move, we basically sold the revenue, right? Because we were bringing in probably after costs, we were bringing in about $100,000 a year in rural Japan, which was like, it'd be like making $200,000 a year now.
Yeah.
Tons of money. And then, so when we got ready to move, we're like, hey, we're going to sell the school and the house that we purchased as one thing before we move back.
So you sold the school, sold the business, moved back to the United States, but now there's this fuse is lit. It's proof of concept. Like, wow, here's something that I previously would have never been privy to or had an openness to, an accident almost. You've discovered entrepreneurship. And so what happened after you came home from Japan? How did that experience lead into the next steps you took?
So I read a book, and I don't remember which book it was. I read it in, I think, 2007. I knew I wanted to move back. And it was like, you gotta create passive income, man. You gotta create something that you can sell online. You gotta put it up on a website, and then people can buy it, and it doesn't cost you anything. So that'd be passive. And so I was like, okay. And then while I was in Japan, I was also shooting weddings part-time, wedding photography, because it was fun and good money. And this was right when the switch to digital was happening. So I cobbled together some actions and some scripts in Photoshop, like paid some lady in Russia, I don't know, $1,200 to write these scripts, and then cobbled this stuff together and threw up a website. And the first month I put it up, we made $4,000. And then we sold everything in Japan, moved back to the US. And the plan is just to get a job. But referring back to my first comment, we couldn't get a job. This was '08. Perfect timing, right? Right before the stock market crash. And I couldn't get a job. So finally I had to just sit down with my wife and was like, hey, I don't think I can get a job, but I know how to make money. How about you just let me do this full time and I'll do this. And now we do multiple 7 figures a year and have multiple employees.
So that company that's producing multiple 7 figures a year right now, that is the company that you started with, getting some scripts from a Russian contractor.
My total investment before I put it up for sale was $2,000. Product. That was the total investment. And then never took a loan or anything, just poured money back into it.
So what do you mean you hired her to write scripts? What were you doing? What was the service that you were offering?
So it was, currently we own, or I and my business partner, we run it's the number one design and sales software for professional wedding and portrait photographers. And now it's a standalone program, but at the very beginning, it was like a Photoshop plugin. It wasn't even a plugin yet. It was really, really basic. It would be like if you recorded macros in Excel and sold them. Like, remember when people used to do that back in the day? Like, that was the level of sophistication. But it was just unique enough and did something kind of cool that we're able to get it off the ground.
So how fast did that, and I'm asking these questions because this is really leading into the topic, the keynote of what we're going to talk about today is business that can consume our lives as an entrepreneur. And a lot of people listening to this show are entrepreneurial. They're business owners. And I'm going to ask you a lot of questions that are quite selfish. The reason I'm going to ask you about this journey, the scalable journey, is because it obviously led to the insight that you're going to share today about being trapped in your business and keeping your business from owning your life. And so I would love to just gather some insight on this exciting journey. I'm sure in the beginning, grind, kids are little, build phase, very exciting, lots of explosive growth. You don't even think about the time that you're giving to your business initially just because it's fun. It's a fun roller coaster ride. But what did that journey look like of growth, and what were some, positives and some negatives that ultimately led to what we're going to talk about today?
Yeah. So the growth is first year, it started in April, so not a full year, $32,000 top line. Second year, I think, was 160 top line, and that's still no employee. I don't think I had employees. I think I was answering all the support questions. Like, I was hopping on video calls with people explaining how to install the thing that sucked. And then I think we went 350, 680. And then in 2014, 2014, we launched the desktop app and we went over multiple seven figures.
And that's 6 years, right?
I think so, yeah.
So 6 years.
Yes, although the first 2 years, I didn't even have email marketing. Like I was sending like sales marketing to people that already bought it in hopes that they would share it with their friends or something like that. Like there was no lead gen, there was nothing. I had no idea what I was doing.
Well, that's an interesting insight because you grew this company really, really organically. And the last time we were all together sitting in a circle, there was a big discussion on social media marketing. And I'm obviously heavy social media, like the majority of my marketing, social media. And you made a comment that you're like, I don't like it. I don't do it. There's no value. Like you don't own it.
There's a good chance I'm wrong also, right? So this is the line that I'm writing. I'm not saying that social media isn't useful as a business. I'm saying you can dig yourself in a really big hole by building your business around a social media brand of you.
Yeah. Oh, I see what you're saying. Because you're the person that has to be the face all the time.
Also, your success is tied to the platform. Like I knew people back in the day that built their entire business off of free traffic off of Facebook, right? And then Facebook one day flipped the switch and say, oh, you're going to have to pay for that now. And it's really expensive because these multi-billion-dollar companies are going to be paying for ads. And like I knew people that were making, $1 million a year and went down to like 100 grand in 1 year.
Holy cow. Wow.
So it's not that social media isn't valuable. It's that you just have to be very cognizant of the pitfalls from a monetary standpoint. And then I also think depending on how you run it, there's a lot of mental health aspects.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you get addicted to the likes and the fans and all of that. And then when that goes away, there's a mental health danger there too.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree. And we could do a whole episode on this topic alone. But I did want to refresh. We won't stay here. We won't stay in this lane too long, but I did want to refresh and remember what it was that you didn't like about social media marketing. And it was just so funny because, here I was like, essentially most of what I do is social media marketing.
I mean, who am I to say? I was listening to the School of Greatness podcast and there's some comedian where he books all his shows because he's really good on social media, right? He has no agency, so he keeps the agency fees and stuff too. So,
well, the thing with social media is it's really good at having a big microphone, and it's really, really good at sharing to a wider platform, casting a wide net, and building authority in a space. But I will tell you, my personal ultimate goal is to not just exist on social media. Like I want to own email. I want to own my own landing page and my own email list and my own
email list is the money. That's the
totally.
I did really, really well. We have about 150,000 person list.
How are you leveraging that email list and why is it so valuable to you?
So the email list, and we're not even to the number one and most important thing. I guess we're going to get there. An email list is very important because you own it. Facebook can't change their algorithm. Instagram can't start charging for ads. You own your list.
Right.
So that is your community. And because you own that, there's a double-edged sword, right? So one, you can empty your bucket faster, right? You're filling the bucket with leads and you're emptying the bucket with sales, right? So you can fill your bucket faster and you can fill it more consistently.
Yeah, I agree. The only reason I do social media is to convert people onto my email list. I think we're in total alignment.
I have been doing 6 emails a month for over a decade.
Wow. Over a decade. So that's the compounding effect.
Yeah.
A decade. What are your open rates? Your deliveries, your opens?
Yeah. So I'm probably going to give the wrong numbers because I just receive the numbers. I don't pile them together. Our marketing team does that. And so there's different lists. So we have current people who are paying for the SaaS software is one bucket. Past people who may have purchased from us in the past, but are no longer paying us. And then people who've downloaded the trial. And so it depends on where they are in their journey. I think our open rate for the people who are currently paying for a subscription is like 45%, which is huge.
Yeah, that's big.
Double what most most companies will get with current.
Yeah, I get like a 15% open rate.
Yeah. I can help you increase that. And then
Awesome.
the people who have purchased in the past is probably 15 to 20%. And then our people who have downloaded the trial, and we're sending out to 100,000 people at a time, right? So some of the leads are a couple years old, right? And I think we're at 7 or 8% on something like that. But that's the compounding, right?
Totally.
The 15% open rate on a 10,000 list, or you're getting a 7% open rate on a 150 person list.
Absolutely. You and I could probably have multiple separate podcast episodes about specific niches here.
Okay, we'll do one a quarter.
So let's get back on topic to the theme, the keynote of our discussion today. So here we have these 6 years of your company, explosive growth. That's really good. You went from 32,000 year one to multiple 7 figures year 6. If you look back on that time, I mean, think about 6 years in the development of your marriage, your children. That's a lot of time. That's a lot of time. It's not a lot of time on our overall journey, but in really valuable years of your family's life, that's a substantial amount of time. And so during that time, during that explosive growth, how much were you involved in the business versus, really intentionally carving out time for your family?
For the time, I think I did as best as I could, right? I was always home when the kids got home from school, never missed a practice. One of the things I did with the business is we started at 7 a.m. and finished at 3 o'clock because, we have support for people on the East Coast. I think I did really good on that time. Like I was always there, but a lot of times I wasn't mentally there. My head was somewhere else. And so we had this explosive growth and we did really good with that growth. This was still, we were selling the product, right? So this is a one-time purchase. We had the explosive growth, got really cocky, hired a bunch more people, hired a bunch more programmers, like, okay, we're just going to keep building more and more, and the customers will just keep coming. And then a couple years later, kids in junior high, we're doing really well. I thought I was really cool. We bought like this RV, this big giant trailer. We're in Bend. We're at that big campground outside of Bend. Got all set up. I'm feeling all good. I did this great thing for the family. We got this trailer. We're here. And the kids start complaining, this is dumb. I don't want to be here. I don't even like camping. I don't like this stupid trailer, And, this was also at a point where, revenues are starting to decline a little bit. Like things are getting tight. Oh, am I going to be able to make payroll? Am I going to have to lay people off? And I was stressed. And those little step ladders, like the 2-step ladders for the kitchen?
Yeah.
I had that to, be able to get stuff off of the trailer or the back of the top of the Yukon or whatever. I lost it. And I grabbed that thing and I just started wailing on a tree. And to this day, we still have that ladder downstairs and it still has a bend and the leg is bent. It was just so embarrassing to just lose it like that in front of the kids. And so that was kind of the moment where I was like, I gotta change something. That I don't want the kids to see their dad as someone that just kind of loses it like that.
Yeah. So it was like this culmination of the business is struggling or not struggling, but changing, right? The growth is changing. The kids are unappreciative. You're kind of consistently struggling with not being present in your family. So what came of that? You reach this pinnacle. There's this blow up moment in your business. And I'm assuming that was one of the moments that started the domino effect of what you preach about, speak about so regularly now. So that day when you said, hey, this isn't sustainable, I got to change something, what did you start to change?
So the number one thing I start to change, and there's a PDF you can download called Rev Pipeline. And the number one thing I changed is change to a recurring revenue model. No matter what business you're in, and you can still have a business where you're making money off of individual customers that are coming in, but no matter what businesses you're in, you have to have a base recurring revenue model, right? That base where no matter what happens, the bills are going to be paid.
Yeah. Like a subscription type?
Yep. Some sort of subscription. We can dive into this because I think there are some subscription models that have worked for the past 5 years that are not going to work going forward. We can kind of talk about that in a little bit. But, we went from 10% of our income being recurring revenue to last year, I think 87% of our revenue was recurring revenue. And through that process, I went from being in the office every single day, minimum 40 hours a week. I would get on the computer after the kids were bed and scope stuff out, plan stuff. Sometimes I'd be chatting with developers overseas or something. And now 10, 12 hours a week is how much time I spend on the business. The thing that I love doing is really taking people who think that they can't make a recurring revenue model out of their business and then showing them how they can do it. And also the other key, Alex Hormozi talks about this, a lot of people talk about this, is that when you have a recurring revenue model, and I've made this mistake a lot of times. I'm a creative. I love making new shit. I was like, oh, let's make this thing and sell it to this different person. Let's make this thing and sell it to this different person. But once you have that recurring revenue model, it's all about how much value can I give to the customer that's already giving me money, right? Not the new customer. So this person that's giving me $30 a month, how can I give them more value every single month? So they're like, oh my God, this is an even better deal than it was when I signed up.
If something works and it's making you money, don't try and go build a new thing. Double down on the thing that's already making you money, increase that revenue, and then take a portion of that if you want to try a new thing, but just keep doubling down on what actually works. I struggle from the same thing. I'm a builder too. I'm like, oh, this is really exciting and fun. I created this new thing and I'm bored with it. I want to hand it off to somebody else and go build a new Lego set, you know?
Let's just take some of the things you're interested in and let's build a recurring revenue business.
Okay.
Yeah, let's just do it. So what areas of interest are you in? And it doesn't even have to be you're passionate about. I think that's one of the things that the current world is like, oh, you got to be passionate about blah, blah, blah. If I could do it all over again, I would just go back in time and create a landscaping company. Like that's the best recurring revenue model business ever because everybody hates mowing their lawn.
Yeah, that's true. This is such an interesting question that you're asking me today because I literally spent an hour in the car today with my bonus dad. And I was like, telling him about this thing I need to create. I just need to create this thing that generates revenue that feeds these other things. And I'm struggling a lot with clarity. And maybe this is a separate conversation of like, what is this thing? But I have a spectrum of interests. I'm a guy that has an eclectic taste and I'm very interested in a spectrum of things. But overall, I think what I'm really, really passionate about is autonomy and like preserving constructs and systems that give us as individuals the autonomy to pursue our passions and our needs. And the industry that I'm in, my 9 to 5 job is mortgage origination, right? So I invest and I have these media outlets and I host meetups and I have this podcast and those are all filling other cups for me, right? And this podcast for one is I envision the growth and what I'm going to do with it. But what pays the bills every single day, besides my passive income streams from, investment properties, is mortgage origination. And, I was reading online and since we're in this scope, in this lane now, I'm just going to, we'll ask directly, I went through your landing page and it was talking about who you are and what you do and has client testimonials of insane revenue growth. And in one of your blurbs, you have, you should aim to wrap up work by 11 a.m. And I guess I'm curious, and this is on theme with, hey, how to keep a business from owning your life. And I'm not trying to redirect the conversation because I need help in figuring out a recurring revenue source. So feel free to challenge me to go back there. I just diverted because I got scared because I don't know how to answer you right now. But
we'll get back to that. And I want to take you through the construct of it so other people can learn how to do it.
Yeah. Okay, good. Let's do it. Okay.
But no, the 11 a.m. club.
So the 11 a.m. club, I look at that and I'm like, I love that. I read The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. Like I want, I'll have set office hours on my emails and set auto replies and I'm all about that. But then at the end of the day, especially like in the industry that I'm in right now, I'm in sales. So if I don't answer the phone or the email, I stop eating. Like a weekend off has like 2 weeks of impact on my income. And I'm trapped. I'm completely trapped in my day-to-day business. So what would you say to somebody that works in a sales job like me, direct sales, where if that phone rings and you don't answer it, that's money out of your pocket?
I mean, there's a few different ways that you can go there. Like there are some businesses where you just can't, there's no recurring revenue model really there, right? So
right.
When you're originating a mortgage, I don't know how the industry works, but I assume you don't get a piece of the pie over the next 30 years.
No, that's correct. It's like a hamster wheel. It's like a single transaction. And for me, in my brain, I'm like, well, what I need to do then is I need to find a business that provides a service that has reoccurring revenue that then funnels leads as a byproduct into this mortgage origination. So mortgage is like the side piece. And this main business, this service that I provide, whether it be, who knows, maybe it's a financial planning service of like, here's the biggest asset of your life. I'm going to teach you how to manage your money and set up, your insurance. I don't know. I don't really know what that looks like. But what I do know is that my struggle is like, what is this centerpiece of a business that can create reoccurring revenue? And that business as a byproduct funnels leads into mortgage origination and supplements a team that I have in place. And that's kind of like the loose construct that I've been building. I just don't know what this main thing is,
There's a few rules in business, and the more you can lean into that for recurring revenue, the better. And if you can help people solve time problems, money problems, or health problems, and ideally two of those things. So our photography software, we have the best automation in the world. Right. So we solve time. And then on average, our customers are able to make at least an extra $50K a year using our software. Right. So we're solving two problems, 2 out of the 3. If I can make them go for a 5-mile run after they use the software, then we solve all 3 of them. But right. So if you can solve a few of those problems, time or money are usually pretty easy ones in a business you're looking at. And then also, if you can solve a problem that people need to repeatedly solve, that you are an expert at least, and you don't have to be an expert in the doing, you just have to be an expert in the judging, right? You have to know what's good and what's bad, right? So for example, when I hire a landscape company to come cut my grass, I don't expect the owner to be there, but I expect the owner to know what a good job is and what a bad job is, right? And so when I call him, be like, dude, you guys messed this up. And he's like, yeah, you're right. We'll come fix that. So I think you have 2 opportunities. One opportunity is just the traditional of like, well, build the team, hire salespeople, and then stop doing sales, right? And that is, if you mentioned one of the people on one of the quotes on my website was a woman who was a photographer, and she was really good at sales. And so she wanted to stop shooting weddings because it's hard work, man, as you get older. And so she wanted to stop. And so she just started doing sales for other photographers, right? And taking a commission on that. And she was really good at it, one of the best probably in the entire nation. And she's like, well, how do I scale this? And I was like, well, you've got to train other people to do it. And then they do it for you. It's like, how you do that. And so then we got into the nuts and bolts of like how to hire the right people, how to train the right people, how to set up your weekly schedule to keep your people on that drumbeat. And she went from 300K to 1.6 in less than a year.
Wow.
In top line revenue.
This is really your superpower, Andrew, because I mean, your contribution in our weekly calls, and just as a quick side note, Andrew's like the psycho runner guy in our accountability group. He's always trying to convince
over whether running's good or not.
That's right. Yeah, you're always on the running side, and you're always trying to, and somehow successfully convincing people to go run long distances that they normally would have never ran on their own. Before they even know what they're doing, they're signed up for a marathon, and they're like confused at the start line, like, how did I get here? But your superpower and your contribution to the group is you're always offering insight on setting these systems up, identifying personality traits, organizing ways to get out of your business and focus on your highest money-making activities. And I think, that's really telling, I'm sure, to not only your progression in your own personal company, but then all of these other testimonials that you're talking about here, where these clients have come alongside and you've helped them, organize and implement these systems. And a lot of it comes down to talent, how you're hiring those talents, and something that you're bringing to our group, our accountability calls is, take this personality test. Let's talk about it. And hey, here's a template I have for how to hire and onboard new employees. And it's definitely, without even you coming on this podcast today, it's something that I've identified, as your superpower and as your contribution. So
Yeah, I appreciate that because I mean, ultimately, if you want to be off work at 11 a.m., then other people have to continue working, right? And I'm very thankful that, to my employees that do that, because what happens, people that are unfamiliar with business, they're like, oh, you're just skating by and, living on the backs of your employees, which you can look at it that way. But at the same time, as the business owner, if I am in the headspace of the rat race and the headspace of always being on that treadmill, then I will not have ideas. Like you have to implement an idea today for it to have an effect on your business next year, right?
Yeah.
If shit starts going downhill today, right? It's going to take you 6 months to fix that. So if you are off at 11 a.m. and you're having lunch and then going for a run and then sitting on the deck and playing, with your golden retriever, which I like to do every afternoon, that's when the really, truly good ideas come. Like they don't come, the truly good ideas never come by like, hey, let's sit down and come up with my idea.
Yeah, that is incredibly wise and profound advice. And even in my own life, like that's true. So right now I mentioned in the beginning of the podcast, I'm traveling, right? Yeah. So the reason I'm traveling is because I have a ownership share of a rather large Airbnb property in Idaho. And we were experiencing some problems leading up to peak season. And it's a long story, but essentially, we took out a loan and we have to refinance in a couple of years, but we have to show some profitability. And if we're not earning during our highest earning season, we're going to have problems when we go to refi this property. So, right before Father's Day weekend, I get on a plane, I'm flying out, I'm away from my kids, I'm sitting here and I'm bummed out, but I'm away from my kids, I'm away from my family, and I am unchained from my sales desk, right? I'm not like at the computer. And it's crazy because, my mom actually is a co-investor, a co-owner of this property. We were hanging out at dinner yesterday and I was just staring out the window and she's like, what are you thinking about? And I'm like, oh, I'm just having like all of these creative rushes coming to me. I said, I think it's just because I'm away from my family. Like I miss my kids a lot, but I'm out of like the office, the quote unquote office. And I was just getting punched in the face repeatedly with idea. I need to implement this thing. So you're absolutely right. And I've experienced it.
So let's take, the mortgage side of the business, right? So that problem I feel like can only get solved through scale.
Yeah.
Right. So figure out how to scale and, you're still young, a little bit of hustle, scale, bring some people on and you can scale. But for that recurring revenue, the key is figure out the value that you can bring to the industry you are in and you lean into that, right? So for example, right, one of the things that you're really good at and there's probably a mindset problem here. One of the things that you're really good at is producing and scheduling videos online, right? And I know you outsource most of that, but you know who to outsource, and you also know when that outsourced person is not doing a good job.
Right.
Well, you sit down with the people you're outsourcing and you're like, hey, how quickly can you scale? Like if I brought you 100 customers tomorrow, could you scale the same thing you're doing for me? And if the answer is yes, then whatever you're paying, cut a deal for a little bit less for a larger portion, charge 30% more, and then there's your business.
That's a really good idea. And it's something I've actually explored. My shortfall, and we should connect about this later, is, okay, so what I started doing is I started teaching social media classes about why you needed to implement it in your business and so on and so forth. And I was getting lead gen that I was handing off to my team that I built for social media. But then my shortfall right now is I'm so consumed in my main business that I'm losing track of details like what happened to that conversion? Did they sign a contract? Are they getting, social media videos produced? And I've totally have lost track of, how am I tracking these conversions? Is there revenue that I should be collecting? And it's because I'm entirely consumed in my mortgage business,
So is there somebody out there who you can help make more money. Maybe someone that's lost their job recently and all these job cuts that are going around that you can help make more money, that can help you scale with that, where you don't need to pay them a salary. You can pay them a commission.
Like a 1099 or something like that?
Yeah.
That's actually a really good idea.
If you walked into your neighborhood, maybe there's a stay-at-home mom, and be like, hey, if I paid you $100 or $150 per person that I brought you, and all you have to do is like monitor this system and communicate with them, would you do that?
That's a good idea. Why are the best ideas so simple and right in front of your face all the time?
That's the key problem with business. So here's the main problem with business, is that in order to get a business off the ground, you need someone that is highly creative and highly industrious, right? To get it off the ground. But the real problem is to get a business to truly scale after that. It's all about simplifying and putting systems in place. So the person that's really good at getting something off of the ground is really bad at scaling it. So that's also one of the things I teach, is like, once you get that off the ground, what you need to hire, usually it's a woman, and usually her name is like Betty, and she's like in charge of like keeping track of all the details and making sure the systems stay in place.
Yeah. Just sitting here right now, I'm having a manic moment of like idea flow just from this conversation of like, what if I did some targeted video campaigns? I paid for like a targeted ad campaign with really produced video. I mean, I can't even express to you how many people I know in the industry who need help, with like marketing, social media, video production. I get inundated with people asking for help. And most of the time I'm just giving this information away. But now I'm thinking like, what if I produced content that was targeted to like, hey, do you want to make videos like how I'm making them to scale your business? And I show social proof of like how it's helping my business grow. And then that person that we bring on, she's monitoring the handoff to the social media team I've built and the conversions. Yeah, this is really good. This podcast has turned into like a personal coaching call here.
Here's the other thing, is that for the past 5 years, up until maybe last year, maybe 5 or 6 years, you could build a very profitable business on education. I think that landscape no longer exists because there's so much education out there.
Yeah.
Right. I don't need to pay somebody to teach me how to make a business. I can go watch Alex Hormozy videos for free on YouTube. He's almost a billionaire.
Right.
I'm sorry, I'm not going to pay Joe Schmo to teach me how to run a business.
Right.
But what you can do is you can tell people, hey, this is how you create effective social media videos, and this is how you schedule them. It's a lot of work. I have a service that does it for you. You're solving those two pain points, right? You're solving time and you're helping them make more money.
Yeah. And then you're saying like, instead of me build the new thing, I just go partner with somebody who's already got the thing. What do you think about that?
You don't, I mean, you could, but you don't partner someone. You find, you create the team, the factory. You find the factory that can produce the videos and schedule them. You create that team. Like, if I want to make widgets, I fly to China, I find a factory that can make my widgets, and I make sure that they can make 1 million widgets, and then I go sell the widgets on Amazon.
Yeah, no, it's good. This is really good.
So you put the team together, and then you target your niche, right? Social media videos for mortgage brokers, which I can guarantee you nobody else is doing this right now, because nobody's targeting mortgage brokers. Like, they might be targeting real estate agents, and they might be targeting whatever, right? And then you're like, hey, every month I will give you a plan. These are the videos you need to make. You will send them. We will edit them, blah, 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 and we will schedule them for you. Done.
Yeah, there are some companies who will tell you how to do it, but there's not a company tailored specifically to like mortgage lenders that are, we will do this. And I can't tell you how many people, when I show them how to do it, they're like, great, can you just do it for me? I've had probably 20 people.
The answer is yes. So here's another one. So you broke one of my rules. So this is one of my rules.
What's the rule?
When people want to give you money, take the money.
Andrew, do you know how many, I can't even tell you in the last year alone, how many people I've said no to, like, this isn't what I do.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't have to be what you do, right? You're the conduit. That's the thing too, is you are the conduit, right? You are what cash passes through.
Yeah. This is really good.
So there's a couple things important. One is that it's easily scalable because you're not doing the work. So that the number one thing that has helped me be successful personally in my own business is I do not know how to write computer code. I own a software company and I do not know how to, if you own a rental property and the plumbing goes out and you know how to do plumbing, that's the worst thing that could happen to you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I hope you don't know how to edit videos.
I made that mistake early, Andrew. I was like, I spent hours learning how to edit up till 2 a.m. editing videos until finally I was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm hiring an editor, and it's been the best decision I've ever made in my life.
Here's the other magic thing, right? So let's say after expenses, because maybe you got to hire a secretary to help you with this. Maybe after expenses, you make $150 per person. Doesn't seem like a lot of money, right? How many active customers do you need at $150 per person to make $30,000 a month?
Man. All right, let's see. 30,000 divided by 150. Let's do it. 200. That's nothing.
That's why the Rev pipeline is magic.
Wow. That is nothing.
In the United States, you need 200 customers.
Yeah. Out of the whole US. And it's done for them.
You need 200 customers. Let's say you scale to 1,000, then you're not even doing the 11 a.m. club. You're doing the 9 a.m. club.
Yeah, that's really, really good. Yeah. Andrew, you're breaking my brain here. This is really good. This is a great podcast. This is really selfishly, I'm obviously very interested in this selfishly, but this is the exact type of knowledge and wisdom that you consistently bring to our group. And when you signed up to get on here today, I was very excited because I knew I could exploit you for a little one-on-one session here. So I'm really, really grateful that you came in. So let's go back to the beginning of the podcast and let's just summarize it one more time. The number one rule. Tell me again. Tell me what it is. What's the number one rule, Andrew?
Create recurring revenue that pays the base bills that you need. We have my landscape guy. I pay his bills, but then every spring and fall, it's like, hey, you know what? We could, fix these trees, or we could do this thing and extra, right? And a little gravy on the top for him every year.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So is this something so you coach people how to build these systems and find these recurring revenue streams?
We've white labeled an entire lead gen system. So we can help set up your business, set up the recurring revenue. And as you see, it's not difficult per se, but it is hard to set up these businesses. So with his experience, we set up the website and the funnels and the automated texting follow-up, the automated email follow-up, all of that. The real thing I focus on is helping as many people as possible cut their work in half and make more money. That's really what it's all about.
I'm thinking of like a handful of people right now that I just want to text your number to when we get off of this podcast. Because I'm like, they need you. They need you right now. They don't even know they need you. So, Andrew, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on the show today. I can't thank you enough. I'm deeply, deeply grateful for your insight and your wisdom. Where can people get a hold of you? How can people get in touch with you? How can they learn more about you and follow up with you?
So I run a number of businesses. If you go to passivereturns.com, that'll give you kind of an overview of all the stuff that I'm up to. And if you go to revpipeline.com, you can have a 3-page PDF that explains how to spec out a really good recurring revenue model with some examples of, like, let's say you're in this industry, how would you do it? If you're in this industry, how you would do it. And if you go check that out, then we'll spam you after that. You'll figure out how to follow up with me.
Perfect. And you're really good at that. You told us about your email list, so I know it's going to be good.
Exactly.
I'm going to leave all of Andrew's information in the show notes below. So make sure that when you're listening to this podcast, you scroll down. He'll have all his clickable links found down below. And I would encourage you, just reach out, look into what he's got going on. This is a guy who has serious value, and you're not going to come away from it anything other than better off. I promise you. I really respect you a lot, Andrew. I've really enjoyed getting to know you and growing into friendship and community together. And it's just been a real blessing to have you around. And even if it's remote, even if it's on our weekly Zoom call, I really feel in gratitude just to be centered and circled up with men like yourself who are out there doing big things and helping everybody else around them improve and get better. And I cannot express my gratitude enough for you coming by today. So thank you.
Really appreciate it. If you do get in touch, at most, it'll cost you. You'll have to go for a 3-mile run and have a beer with me afterwards.
Well, I owe you some miles, man. I'll have to come down to your neck of the woods and yeah, we'll do it together. So anyways, thank you very much for sticking around this week. If you guys like this information, if you guys like the value that the show is bringing, do me a favor. Just give us a review, subscribe, bring your friends into the audience, show them the content that we're creating, because we're here to make all of you better each and every single week. We're here to create dangerous and autonomous individuals who have time freedom, financial freedom, and ultimately philosophical freedom. So thank you guys out there listening, and we will catch you next week on the flip side.